The Firmament, Finding the Truth. Please pause and read. We are told that stars are burning balls of gas, and that the closest star to Earth, which they tell us is the Sun, is supposedly 93 million miles away. And we will cover more about the Sun in the next video. But aside from the Sun, the closest actual star is said to be 25 trillion miles away. But check this out, with a Nikon P1000 long zoom camera, you can zoom into stars like Sirius, which they tell us this one is 51 trillion miles away. Or even Jupiter or Saturn, which are said to be hundreds of millions of miles away. Ask yourself, with us being able to zoom in this far, do these really look like they're that far away? But what's even more interesting is how stars actually appear on camera compared to what mainstream science shows us. Notice how whenever they show us images of stars, they are CGI photoshopped images, not actual photographs like what you see with a Nikon P900 or P1000 long zoom camera. You can see the difference between what they show us versus what we actually observe through our own experimentation. When you zoom into stars with an actual camera, they appear to be lights dancing within water, just like we see through actual experimentation. And it aligns perfectly with how the Bible describes it, because Genesis 1:6-7 says that God made the firmament, which divides the waters below the firmament from the waters above the firmament. And then a few verses later, God says that he put the sun, moon, and the stars in the firmament. So remember, there's water above the firmament, and since the sun, moon, and stars are in the firmament, that means there's water above the sun, moon, and stars. That's why stars look like lights dancing in water, is because there's water above the stars. What's even more interesting is that God calls the stars by name, and they each have their own glory. And we can clearly see that's a fact in how they differ from each other in appearance with their colors and movement patterns. Although this is speculation, it's interesting to think that since God calls the stars by name, it's very possible that stars could actually be angels, and maybe the reason we see patterns of movement within the stars could be due to angels singing and worshiping God, because sound can actually create movement patterns within water, which is called cymatics. Now, I don't know exactly how far away the stars are, but since they're in the firmament and we can zoom into them pretty well, we know they aren't millions of miles away as we're told to believe. So if the stars are closer to us and they're in the firmament, how do the stars move to cause us to see different stars and constellations throughout the year? Well, if we were spinning and zooming in all kinds of directions at unfathomable speeds, you would see different stars all the time. But remember, before the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed, they had that hole in the middle, which always had the North Star Polaris within that hole, and the North Star never moved. So if you look outside tonight, map out the stars at a given time, you can find the same stars in the same position 1 year later. The stars are fixed in place within their constellations, and the stars are the ones that rotate around the immovable Earth. Although there are some such as Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn known as wandering stars, since these aren't necessarily fixed in place. But if you look at star trails from long exposure photos or even time-lapse video footage, you can see how the stars rotate around the Earth. Here's a better illustration of how this works. Depending on where you live on the Earth, your view of the stars will be different due to the dome of your perspective vision. If you live closer to the center of the Earth, Polaris, the North Star, will appear more right over your head as the other stars rotate around you. But if you live further south, Polaris will appear lower in the sky and other stars will start to tip. The further something above is away from your position, the lower it will appear on the horizon. It's all due to perspective. And here's another really good visual too that should give a better understanding as to how the stars appear to rotate around you as they're above us in the firmament. The stars gradually shift every day, and after a month or so, new stars appear to move into your field of view while others begin to set below the horizon. This is because stars rotate in a speed a little bit faster than the sun, to where the sun falls back into a new set of constellations every month. And this is why you see a new set of stars and constellations every month. And then a year later, the same set of stars will catch back up to the sun and be reset to the same position from where you saw them a year before. God says in Genesis 1:14 that there's lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and they're for signs and seasons and days and years. The sky is a perfect clock. The sun tracks the days, the moon phases track the months, and the stars track the years. And for the next topic, we will cover how the sun and moon are close to the earth in part 14 of The Firmament, Finding the Truth.